during World War II in Nazi prison camps. These ill-fated musicians and composers, ensnared in the Holocaust, prevailed by performing and composing music of profound importance and beauty. Their music will live forever. Please join me the second and fourth Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. to discover their music.
KSJE is supported by San Juan Regional Medical Center, here to meet your urgent and emergent medical needs, whether they are COVID-19 related or not. Medical emergencies happen when you least expect them, whether it's a stroke, heart attack, illness, or injury. San Juan Regional Medical Center's caregivers are here to provide care to you and your loved ones. Find out more online at sanjuanregional.com. Ten minutes past 8 o'clock. It is Thursday morning, February 11th, 2021. Good morning, everybody. I'm Scott Michlin. Thank you for tuning in to KSJE 90.9 FM over the air here in San Juan County, 103.3 FM over the air in Durango, Colorado. Good morning, Durango. And, of course, streaming everywhere from our website at ksje.com. Welcome also to our viewers who are watching this visual radio program. We are streaming live this morning to the KSJE Facebook page, our YouTube channel, and our Twitter account. So however you found your way to us this morning, we are glad that you are with us, because coming up, our topic is economic development with my guest. Arvin Trujillo is here. He is the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development. Lots of exciting partnerships to talk about this morning and other things that are going on with Forced. So stay tuned for that coming up in the next few moments right here on KSJE. And then, of course, don't forget, it is our COVID-19 Community Information Program, streaming live this morning at 9 a.m. to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This morning, we'll get a live update from San Juan Regional President and CEO Jeff Bourgeois. We'll also get an update from Liesl Dees on the Want to Help line. That's opportunity for volunteers in the community. And Sheila Mobley will be here with her efforts to help area high school seniors. We'll get updates on all of those projects coming up this morning, again, live at 9 a.m. streaming on our social media platforms, and you can always hear it on the radio this afternoon at 5:06 p.m. on KSJE and KSJE.com. On the radio at 9, of course, Mick Hess has our classical music program, Roving with the Arts, and this morning, Mick is playing selections from composer John Cage. You'll hear that today on the radio at 9 a.m. And don't forget, of course, you can also connect with us on Instagram, in addition to Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And let's talk about the weather forecast for just a moment. Outside right now, it is mostly sunny, 29 degrees in Farmington this morning, but we're on our way to a high of 55 this afternoon. Nice mild temperatures, but enjoy that while they last, because there's a big change coming up. Tonight, 33 for a low, but tomorrow, take a look. A chance of rain and snow with a high of 51 on Friday. More chances for rain showers in the forecast on Saturday with a high of 53. Rain and snow mixed with much colder temperatures on Sunday with a high of 39. Maybe a brief respite from the rain and snow on Monday with partly sunny skies and a high of 39. And then another chance for rain or snow on Tuesday with a high near 40 degrees. And we never want to complain about the moisture because we always need it here in the high desert, but wow, 5 days worth is a lot, but we'll take it anytime. Let me turn to my guest who is here with me this morning. Arvin Trujillo, as I mentioned, is the president and CEO of Four Corners Economic Development. Great to have you here. Good morning.
Good morning, Scott.
And we enjoy the moisture, right? We can't complain about it.
We need that moisture.
We do, even though I love to admire it from afar, like in the mountains.
That's right.
I like seeing it up there because that means we have water for the spring and summer. But
that's right.
Good to have you here, and good to be talking about rain a little bit and some snow. Lots of projects that you are working on with Forced, and so you're here to give us a little bit of an update on kind of what's been going on and really working with the tribe these days, right?
Yes. One thing that we've really been pushing is developing our partnership here in the Four Corners area. And we've been very fortunate to really we're beginning to really establish that partnership with the Navajo Nation.
And they with you, if I might add,
yes,
right? It goes both ways, doesn't it?
It goes both ways on that. And as you are aware, many of our viewers are aware, we put together an MOU last year focusing on the railroad project and seeing about getting rail here into the county. Well, we've expanded that now, and we are moving forward in what we call the 5-project initiative. And in that, we've agreed with the Navajo Nation that we'll also work together on 4 additional projects. One will be looking at a San Juan County broadband plan,
Right.
getting a plan together here in the county, looking at expanding manufacturing and warehousing areas for Raytheon, the manufacturing development up on the bluffs.
Right. Okay.
We're looking at seeing if we can get permitted and designed and constructed a pump storage hydroelectric project out at Abattoir, which is on the western portion of the county. And again, that's basically like a huge battery for the renewable projects. And then finally, we're also going to be working with them to reassess the Navajo Dam escrow account. There are dollars there that are available for economic development reasons. We want to partner with them to see we can identify some projects that we can utilize that funding for, again, to enhance our economic capabilities here in the county.
Interesting. Let me talk to you about each one of those for just a moment, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We know about the railroad. We talked about that before. And it seems like for all 5 of these things, if the tribe didn't want to be a partner, it would kind of be dead in the water, right? It really can't go forward without their participation.
Exactly, because all of these are either sited on the Navajo reservation, or we have to look at right-of-ways to go through those areas. And so having this partnership really enhances our capabilities to see these things to
Right.
positive results.
And certainly it seems to me that they see the economic development potential of partnering with Forced and San Juan County and other entities to make these things maybe move forward too.
They do. And again, the administration right now is really looking at what do they do down the road, given the fact that they are very much aware. And they've gone through it with the closing of the Navajo Generating Station.
Right.
We're looking at the closure of San Juan Generating Station, as well as the Four Corners Power Plant. And what
In the
did
next,
we do
what, decade or so?
within the next decade? And so again, what do we do after that point? And again, much like the state of New Mexico, the Navajo Nation also sees benefits from the oil and gas industry, but also a tremendous amount of transitioning is happening within that industry too. So again, they're looking for alternatives, and they see that real possibilities by working in partnership with us.
Right. And so the broadband plan that you mentioned, we talked about that too, because I know you have grand plans for Four Corners loop, if you will, right,
Yeah.
and a whole incorporated network. And of course, the Navajo Nation plays a big role in that too, because their lands are so extensive, and that loop could maybe also branch off. I think you mentioned last time about maybe having it follow the the 160 US 160 corridor, perhaps
Exactly.
across the northern and western parts of the reservation, and maybe going down to the Phoenix area. Is that kind of? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, you're
I
right.
slept since we talked last time, Arvin, so I may not be remembering it. But that would then maybe be able to allow more high-speed broadband connections to communities in those parts of the reservation, right?
Yes, and to add to that, right now the Navajo Nation, through the CARES Act, was able to allocate dollars to a number of ISP providers on the reservation: NTOA Wireless, Sacred Wind, Cellular One, and they went out and they actually worked on laying some fiber, getting hotspots in place, getting microwave and towers up. And so again, given that additional building up in their capacity, coupled with the fact that we're looking at developing a plan here in San Juan County, how can we best come together? Because as many people are aware, the southern portion and the western portions of the county are the Navajo Nation. So how can we combine that, given the fact that we have an engineering study looking at this loop that will connect Durango, Cortez, Shiprock, Farmington, and Aztec? How do we bring that into play? And looking at the Navajo Nation, they're working with a group called Arcadia Infracom, which is what you were talking about. They're bringing fiber optic up from Phoenix into
right.
Page. They've got a northern loop that's going to go on to Salt Lake City. They're looking at a eastern loop that would branch off from Page, come through the Navajo Nation. They're looking to come through San Juan County on up towards Denver, Colorado. So again, us working with the nation, we would like to find out what are their plans, how are they planning on doing this, and are there ways that we can incorporate the fiber optic loop that we're envisioning here into that whole process, by which then we build on high-speed capabilities, we build on redundancy, and we get a basic plan together for a trunk line from which we can do middle mile planning and final destination planning for getting wireless out to all the homes throughout the county here.
Right. And again, for those folks who maybe aren't as familiar with what this all means too, is that by having maybe multiple loops that all kind of converge or link to San Juan County and go different directions, that redundancy is really important, right? So if a internet bandwidth is too clogged going maybe to Denver, everything can some of the traffic can move to Salt Lake City or to Phoenix or what have you. And so the connection remains stable, and whatever you're doing on the internet, whether it's commerce, retail, editing a movie, whatever the case may be, you've got the bandwidth to do that, even though you don't know what's going on with the network, but the network is managing itself.
Yes, what redundancy talks about.
That was very nerdy, wasn't it? Wow, I really geeked out on that question. Holy smokes.
But, looking at the basic idea of redundancy, it simply means you have a number of different paths that these electrons and communication pieces can move. And so many of us have gone through those situations where that signal gets severed, but there's no redundancy in many parts of the county. So what happens? The stores can't accept your credit cards. They can't do any business. They either, you see the signs that says cash only, our systems are out, or they revert back to the old credit card where they
that thing, when they swipe it, or they have that machine that they have to bring out,
they just kind of roll
imprint
that,
it.
you print it,
That's
and,
right,
and et cetera. And so again, having redundancy means that should a line go down in one portion, you would still have a path. So these capabilities would continue to run, even though you would have areas that would need to be maintenanced or fixed or those situations resolved. So again, that's the power of this whole effort.
But certainly filling in the gaps too. And we've seen this year, most importantly, maybe how important having reliable internet is for kids who are going to school and have to now go to school remotely. Even though we want all the kids to go back to school face to face as soon as they can do it safely, they still need to do homework and they still may need the internet when they're home from school. And so by filling in these gaps, that's going to help, and retail and other opportunities as well.
Well, again, we're seeing the power of the internet and the power of telecommunications now. In the past, we really never really had to go in that direction. But with the pandemic, that opened up a whole new world. Because again, people never really used to utilize telemedicine. But now you're beginning to see individuals who are dialing into their doctors and by the internet are able to get diagnosed or do their checkups and get those things done instead of going into the office. We see the capabilities of communicating with one another through meetings and et cetera, where you don't have to jump in a car anymore and drive 60 miles to a meeting.
Right.
You can just dial up and there they are. And then when you do need to have meetings, you can plan those out, but they don't have to be as frequent as we've done before. So, and then as you indicated, looking at education, how do we begin to build that piece and how do we enhance those efforts? So there are a number of vehicles that are becoming available because of the internet and telecommunications. And now we're really seeing the positive aspects and the capabilities of that technology.
Right, exactly. And I want to ask you, too, about the Raytheon project that you mentioned, which I think some of us sometimes don't always remember, that we've got this major manufacturing plant up on the Nappy that employs a lot of Native Americans and others here in San Juan County, and they're doing some pretty technical, pretty specific work up there, and there's expansion potential for that organization?
There is a lot of potential there. In talking with Raytheon leadership here locally, there are transitionings happening throughout the Raytheon organization. And their take on the whole situation is, if we could expand our manufacturing and our warehousing capabilities locally.
Right.
They have a really good opportunity to bring jobs that are currently in place in other portions of the nation here to San Juan County, because a number of these other areas would like to become more specialized. And what they're seeing right now is that the type of work they're wanting to bring in, the quality here is very high with the workers that we have. And again, utilizing this opportunity, if we can expand this, that will open new jobs, not only for the Navajos, but really for the whole area. That would open opportunities for suppliers here in the area to supply materials, equipment, etc. And so again, it opens up a whole new set of opportunities for the region here. So we're really looking forward to working with the nation to see what we can do to expand that facility.
Right. And I would think that these jobs are more of the higher paying type jobs and highly skilled type jobs that we are looking for, especially if we need to replace maybe some of these mining jobs and power plant jobs that may be going away over the next decade or so.
Exactly. They are higher paying jobs. They're good jobs where you can basically develop a career. Because again, much of the work that's being done by Raytheon here in the local area are all defense-based jobs. And so again, looking at the type of material and the type of equipment that are being built here locally, it's something that you don't see going away in the near term. These are items and areas or equipment that's being built that will be long-term pieces. And so again, going into this new manufacturing field, you could really make a career out of this.
Right. Well, that's exciting to hear as well. And the final thing that you mentioned was this Navajo Dam escrow account, which maybe folks don't remember because it's been around since the dam was built, if I'm correct, right? And so it was money set aside to help with economic development, and it's sitting in an escrow account, as they do. And maybe it could be tapped to help pay for some of these things that we're talking about, I think. Is that some of how you have to use it?
That's exactly what's happening there also, Scott. We have this escrow account that's been sitting there. This agreement is 34 years old. And so, again, you're looking at dollars that have been accruing up to that point. And so what we're wanting to do is to reconnect with the Navajo Nation. And now this is an agreement between the city of Farmington and the Navajo Nation.
It was part of that sharing agreement, I guess, when they decided to build this hydroelectric plant and provide the water to the Nappy Farm, for example, electricity for the city and others. And so that was all part of these grandiose negotiations to get that project done.
Yes. Yes.
And how much money is in there?
We're not quite sure. The Navajo Nation right now.
Somebody must know.
I'm sure somebody knows.
But it's the control of the Navajo tribe.
Right. It's within their control. And so what they're doing right now is they're going back and they're checking through their records to get a clear amount there.
I assume it's probably in the millions.
Well, that's what we're thinking.
Okay.
That's what we're thinking.
Which is substantial.
And again, we're not sure. So I don't want to put a number out there yet.
No, I understand.
Until we're positive.
But we're talking big dollars, and so it would be maybe available to make some major impacts in some of these things we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's not like $2.50.
We could look at these projects or look at
something
other
else.
Projects that would be beneficial to both the city and the Navajo Nation. And so we're really looking at that, and we're looking at getting the necessary meetings in place so that not only do we reevaluate the agreement that's in place, we understand what the amount is, but then this group will need to take a look at our process. How do we start looking at applying for the funding? How do we go through a selection process, and then how do we award that money? And again, the idea here is to award dollars in a fashion so that we generate jobs. And that's the ultimate goal here, is to generate jobs with all these 5 projects that we're looking at.
Sure. And again, from the tribe's perspective, as you mentioned, they are seeing job losses like other communities too, with the closure of the Navajo generating station, the changes to the mining in McKinley County, Gallup area, Kayenta, all these different places that impact the Navajo Nation, in addition to the potential changes at the San Juan generating station and maybe the Four Corners power plant, as you talked about, too. All these things would impact tribal employment as well.
Exactly.
In a major way.
Exactly. And again, what we're looking at is how do we develop new opportunities, looking at a method of partnering with one another and doing so in a way so that we can find common ground, we can look for those opportunities, and together we can then forge some new opportunity. And what I'm hoping is, as we begin to do this and as we begin to see the results, that will open up the door for the rest of the Four Corners region to start looking at, how do we partner? How can we work with one another? How can we work with Southwest Colorado, Southeast Utah? How do we start looking at these opportunities here? And so again, those are things that I'm looking at down the horizon. I think there are new opportunities that will arise. But again, how do we begin to start this whole process?
And the Navajo Nation Vice President, who has been on this program at your invitation, thank you again for including him. You and he are working kind of together on some of these things to kind of move them forward in the different areas?
Yes.
Vice President Lizer.
Vice President Lizer and myself, we're basically the 5 project initiative leaders. There will be these 5 projects under us, which will each have program managers. We envision these projects moving at their own pace, utilizing the resources that they need to move forward with. We have some short-term projects like the Raytheon project, the Navajo Dam project, that we think can be done fairly quickly and see results there. We've got, and then we've got mid to long-term projects, the railroad,
Sure.
the petrochemical initiative, the broadband piece and getting that up and running, and the pump storage efforts. And so again, all of these will help us really start looking at bringing jobs into the area and building an infrastructure from which we can then bring in new industries, new manufacturing, new opportunities for the given region here, not just San Juan County, but for the Four Corners region.
Right. You mentioned that pump storage, and that's the one I neglected to ask you about to get a little more details about that. But this is in the Baclabato area, which is kind of in the far western edges of San Juan County, right? Along Highway 64, as it heads off towards the Four Corners and Tisnos Pass and those areas, right? And so what does that entail? It's not a very large community, but it's got some advantages?
Well, basically what this project is constructing 2 reservoirs, one up on the Cheska Mountains,
right,
and one in the lower Baclabato area. And what you would do then is you would pump water up to the higher lake and fill that lake up. So essentially you have potential energy sitting there. Mm-hmm. You would use power, let's say you bring renewables in, that
which the tribe is doing.
Right, which the tribe is doing. The excess power from those renewables, when you don't need it, could be utilized to pump water up to the upper reservoir. Then you would have a tunnel that would come down from the mountain to the lower lake. In the lower portions of that tunnel, you would have a generating station.
I see it. Now I'm getting it. I'm following you. Yes, sir.
When the sun goes down, or if we had wind power, the wind stops blowing, or it's cloudy, and you're not able to generate power anymore through the actual solar system that you've got in place.
Open the gates.
Open the gates. Water starts flowing through that tunnel. It turns turbines, and you got energy coming out.
Makes electricity.
It makes electricity. It
there
flows to the lower lake. It begins to fill that up. The power comes back on. You shut the gates off. You have excess power that's generated from the renewable piece. That begins to pump water back up to the upper lake. You got a huge battery, a natural resource battery sitting there. And again, with the geology that's in place, there's thinking that this is going to be one of the most efficient pump storage operations in the country. And so this is something that we're looking at because, again, the Navajo Nation wants to look at renewable development.
Sure, of course.
But right now, we're not at the stage in terms of battery technology to store energy.
Right. So when the sun isn't shining or the wind's not blowing, you've got a potential problem.
We've got a potential problem there.
Got it.
And so by utilizing this process, now we can look at renewable development that could help power different industries. But then when the sun goes down or it's not shining during cloudy days, we have another energy source that we could utilize to provide power. And this, again, opens the door for large manufacturing because, as you may be well aware, Scott, industries, IT industries, manufacturing industries, Nike, Google, Amazon, a lot of these large industries are looking for renewable power sources to power their manufacturing and their different offices and etc., their infrastructure.
Right.
So if we have this capability here in this region, again, that begins to open doors up for us to say, we've got this capability. Would you be willing to site in your manufacturing or your industry here in this region? And again, that will bring jobs to the area.
Sure. A lot of these companies are trying to look at those locations, right? They're
Exactly.
becoming more environmentally conscious of where their energy comes from and things like that. We saw that, I think, even years ago in California when they stopped buying coal-produced energy.
Yeah.
And so it's not anything necessarily that's brand new, but it's certainly becoming more and more accepted, I think, across the country and across the world at this time. And we have, 3, I think, major solar projects on the drawing board for San Juan County?
We have, 2. We've got two.
At least.
And there's one that's also looking at the possibilities, but we've got 2 right now that are looking to see if they can start construction sometime this summer.
And these are part of the replacement power from the San Juan generating
Yes.
station going offline. That's where these 2 are coming from.
Exactly.
And then the third one is still being talked about. But that would be a pretty major change in the energy makeup of this longtime energy producing county.
Yes, it will. And again, we're looking at the fact that we've got a lot of infrastructure in place as far as the transmission is concerned.
That's right.
So again,
That goes in our favor for a
that
change.
goes in our favor. And so how do we begin to look at this and how do we make some changes? And again, as we look at these types of initiatives like the 5-project initiative, the MOU with the railroad, I mean, this is brand new stuff to us. And quite frankly, I mean, you've been a part of this region as long as I've been, Scott. We really haven't seen our communities work together like this before. And so now we're beginning to move in this direction. And yes, there's a lot of learning that we've got to do. How do we work together? How do we find common ground? How do we mitigate different issues and situations? How do we build teams? How do we build trust? And so these things are ongoing as we're moving forward through this. But again, the clock is still ticking. We've got 10 years to get this thing done. Because come 2031, APS has already said they're out of Four Corners. Now, if we find another buyer or the nation finds somebody else to run that plant, there might be some benefits there.
Right.
But the main operator right now has already indicated that come 2031, they are exiting the Four Corners power plant.
Correct. And I think we can all agree, even if we hate to see those jobs go away or what have you, or the mines close or what have you, but I think coal-fired power in the future is going to look very different than it looks today.
Yes.
I think that's an okay statement to make, not controversial, because we can't keep burning coal the way we've been burning coal and to continue to create energy. We can burn coal in a different way, maybe a cleaner way, and that's up for debate and conversation. But anyway, that's what we're talking about.
We've got to look at that piece because, we have natural resources here, coal, natural gas, oil, but we can't look at it as we've done in the past in terms of this is a way we can generate energy or, looking at how we might utilize these resources. We can still utilize these resources as a base for carbon. Now, how do we utilize that to help us look at new product, new ways of utilizing those for an end product that we can then ship out of this region?
Right.
And so again, those are things that we've got to start tackling. And I think as we come and look at partnerships, we can find viable ways to do this. And that's what we're really excited about, looking at these partnerships and building these partnerships. And again, it's something that is new. And I'm not saying that it's easy, but we are making progress and we're making some good strides in this, and we're looking forward to seeing the results that that come out of these initiatives.
Right. Well, it's innovative.
Yes.
And it's not one giant basket you're putting your eggs in. You've got 5 different baskets here that you're putting your eggs in, which I think is encouraging. Now, I wanted to ask you mentioned trust, which I think is a big part of this too. And so, and politics has to come into play here a little bit because you have the Lizer administration with the Navajo Nation president. And so what happens if there's a new administration coming in? Do you think the relationships you're building now is going to kind of work through any potential changes in leadership of the Navajo Nation? Certainly the council can help move some of this stuff along too.
You know, we're going to be working with the council to help stabilize this effort. But again, as we begin to find that we're making progress and we're seeing good results, even when you look at it from a political aspect, if things are working and things are happening, you're going to have a tendency to take a look at that and say, well, how do I build on that? How do I make that happen? And again, that comes back to us being able to advocate positively for what's been happening, what we've achieved, and what we're wanting to do. And so again, that's why we're looking at ways to make sure that we obtain results. And we don't just sit and we talk about this stuff. We've been talking about this stuff too long. So we're moving forward to see if we can get some action going. And, you know, having partners like the Farmington Chamber, Kirtland Chamber has been very positive. We got the municipalities all involved. They're very cognizant of what we're doing. The county, Southwest Colorado is watching us very closely as they see some things happening. So again, we're building that momentum. And as we begin to do that, I think that will help us continue this process down the road, because as you start seeing things happening and you're seeing the positive results, I think people will begin to make this a part of our normal way of operating instead of this being the exception.
Right. Well, and I would think that any politician would want to maybe help create more jobs for his or her constituents,
Yes.
of no matter from what side of the aisle you're on. So,
Exactly.
So hopefully you'll have much support moving forward from whomever's in power.
From whoever. And again, even from our side, I mean, we change political individuals on our side also. And so again, it's looking at it from both ways and building that sense of contribution from both sides. And this is how we're a part of this. And this is how we are helping to achieve some of these things that, quite frankly, when I first came in, people were looking at me like, do you really think you can make that happen?
Right,
You know?
right.
But again, it's looking at these pieces and seeing how do we progress forward. And what I'm telling people is, yes, we've been successful up to this point at this juncture. But this isn't the real work. We're starting to do the real work now. And so we got to keep going. So that's the message.
Exactly. Well, we want you to stay in office, but if you're running for anything else, I'll vote for you. Thank you, Arvin, for coming in this morning.
One last thing.
What you got?
Before we leave.
Yes, sir.
I just want to stress everybody, we are just almost there at the yellow.
Oh, I know.
Criteria.
Right? The COVID map, we missed it yesterday by 0.01%.
That's right.
And we would have been in the yellow. But I guess the good news is in 2 weeks, if we all keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to definitely be in the yellow zone, maybe even jump to green, which would be great.
Exactly. So again, I would stress, folks, if you could wear your mask, continue social distancing. If you have the opportunity to get the vaccine, please do so. All of these things help us, but more importantly, they help our businesses, because now we can begin to open up our businesses and help them get reestablished. And it'll also help us continue our efforts in opening up our schools. And so again, I'm really encouraging our people, stay the line. We were at, what was that?
2 weeks ago, we were at 12.71%, that test positivity rate that they use to gauge whether you're red, yellow, or green. And in 2 weeks, we went down to 5.01. So we've made big strides in those last 2 weeks, and I think we can do more in the next 2 weeks to
Yes.
get to yellow or green.
So again, I want to congratulate everybody out there. Keep the good work up. And again, looking forward to the next couple of weeks when hopefully we'll be able to open up our stores again.
Very true. And I'll look forward to our next conversation in March, Arvin. So we'll see you when you come back.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing these great projects with us. Very
You
exciting
bet.
news.
Thank you.
Arvin Trujillo, my guest. He is, of course, the CEO of Four Corners Economic Development, my guest here on KSJE. Back with more, of course, in just a moment. The time is 8:43. KSJE is supported by the University of Denver Graduate School of Social Work Four Corners program. The program is accepting applications for the advanced